The Silent Vow. Nova Station hung like a silver jewel against the backdrop of the Helios Nebula, its sleek curves and solar arrays gleaming in the light of distant stars. The research outpost represented humanity's furthest reach into the cosmos, a beacon of scientific curiosity and peaceful exploration. Inside its pressurized halls, 300 scientists, engineers, and support staff went about their work, unaware that today would change everything. Dr. Elena Rice checked the atmospheric readings in her xenobiology lab for the 5th time that morning. The alien spore samples she'd collected from Proxima b were showing promising adaptability to Earth-like conditions, potentially revolutionary for terraforming technology. She brushed a strand of dark hair from her face and sipped her coffee, the gentle hum of the station's life support systems a comforting white noise she'd grown accustomed to during her 3 years aboard. "Looking good, Dr. Reyes?" asked Lynn, her assistant, peering over her shoulder at the readings. Elena nodded with a smile. "If these adapt as expected, we could reduce terraforming timelines by decades. The implications for future colonies are enormous." The station's AI voice interrupted their conversation. "All personnel, please note scheduled communications blackout for system maintenance will begin in 15 minutes. Duration estimated at 45 minutes. Elena checked her watch. The routine maintenance would give her time to focus without incoming messages from Earth Command constantly pinging her console. She turned back to her microscope, adjusting the magnification to examine the cellular structure of the alien spores. That's when the first tremor shook through Nova Station. The lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. Elena looked up, confusion creasing her brow. That wasn't scheduled. The emergency klaxon blared to life, its piercing wail shattering the peaceful atmosphere. The station's AI voice returned, but now it sounded different, clipped, urgent, alert. Unidentified vessels approaching. Hostile intent detected. This is not a drill. All personnel proceed to emergency stations immediately. Elena's blood ran cold. Nova Station was unarmed. A research facility, not a military installation. It existed under the protection of the Galactic Concord Treaty, which Earth had signed with 7 other spacefaring civilizations just 12 years earlier. "What's happening?" Lynn asked, panic rising in her voice. Before Elena could answer, another impact rocked the station, more violent this time. The lights went out completely, replaced seconds later by the red glow of emergency illumination. Through the lab's viewport, Elena saw them. 3 obsidian ships, angular and predatory, their hulls absorbing rather than reflecting the nebula's light. She'd never seen their design before, but she knew what they were doing. They were firing on an unarmed research station. "We need to get to the escape pods," Elena said, grabbing Lynn's arm. Now, the corridors were chaos, scientists and staff running, some helping wounded colleagues. Another blast hit the station, throwing Elena against the wall. The sound of escaping air hissed somewhere nearby. A hull breach. Station Director Chen's voice came over the emergency channel. "This is Director Chen. We are under attack by unknown forces. All personnel evacuate immediately. Repeat, evacuate immediately." Elena and Lynn reached the escape pod bay to find a scene of desperate activity. Many pods had already launched, leaving only a handful remaining. Security Chief Mendez was directing people into pods, his face streaked with blood from a gash on his forehead. "Dr. Reyes, this way," he shouted, waving her toward a pod with 3 seats still empty. Elena pulled Lynn along, but the young assistant stumbled, crying out in pain. Her ankle had twisted in the chaos. Elena lifted her, half carrying her toward the pod. Another explosion, closer this time. The station groaned like a dying beast. Warning lights flashed across control panels. Structural integrity compromised. Life support failing. Reactor containment at risk. They reached the pod, and Mendez helped Elena secure Lynn inside. "What about you?" Elena asked the security chief. "I'll take the last pod with the remaining staff from medical," he said. There are still people trapped in the East Wing. We're going to get them out. Elena wanted to argue, to tell him there wasn't time. But another violent shudder through the station decided for her. Mendez slammed the pod doors shut and punched the launch sequence. The escape pod ejected from Nova Station with a violent lurch. Through the small viewport, Elena watched in horror as the station, her home for 3 years, broke apart under the relentless assault. The reactor section detonated in a silent flash of blue-white energy, sending debris scattering across the starscape. She thought of Director Chen, of Mendez, of all the people still aboard. Scientists, teachers, the family members who had made Nova their home. Gone. All gone. The pod's communication system crackled to life. Emergency distress signal activated. Beacon transmitting on all UEF frequencies. Estimated time to nearest assistance, 12 hours. 12 hours. Elena closed her eyes, her hands clenched into fists so tight her nails cut into her palms. The pod's small medical kit contained a sedative, which she administered to Lynn, whose broken ankle needed attention they couldn't provide in the cramped escape vessel. As Lynn drifted into unconsciousness, Elena turned to the pod's communications array and began recording. This is Dr. Elena Reyes, xenobiologist, Nova Research Station. We have been attacked without warning or provocation by unknown vessels. Nova Station is destroyed. Her voice cracked slightly, but she forced herself to continue. I am transmitting all sensor data collected during the attack. The vessels used energy weapons unlike any I've seen before. They targeted our reactor specifically. This was not random. They knew exactly what they were doing. She paused, looking out at the expanding cloud of debris that had once been Nova Station. They attacked a research outpost. There were families aboard. Children. Elena's voice hardened. Whoever they are, they must have believed we would be an easy target. That humanity would absorb this loss and retreat from the stars in fear. Her final words were spoken not in grief, but in cold, calculated certainty. They were wrong. On Earth, the message from Nova Station arrived during a routine session of the United Earth Federation Security Council. The transmission was fragmented, degraded by the distance and interference, but the content was unmistakable. Attack. Destruction. Massacre. Admiral Jackson Wells stood rigid as he watched the recording of Dr. Reyes' message for the 3rd time. Around the circular table, the 20 representatives of Earth's unified government sat in stunned silence. The holographic display at the center of the room showed the last sensor readings from Nova Station. 3 unknown vessels of advanced design systematically destroying an unarmed research outpost. 342 civilians, Wells said quietly. 68 of them children. President Kamari of the UEF rose from her seat, her dark eyes reflecting the red emergency lights that had automatically activated throughout the chamber. Admiral Wells, your assessment. Wells stepped forward, his weathered face grim beneath short-cropped gray hair. 40 years in Earth's defense forces had prepared him for many things. This was not one of them. Madam President, members of the Security Council, the attack on Nova Station represents the most serious breach of the Galactic Concord since its signing. The aggressors have not identified themselves, but their technology does not match any known signature in our database. He gestured to the holographic ships. These vessels were designed for war. Their targeting was precise and deliberate. This was not a misunderstanding or an accident. This was a calculated strike against humanity's presence beyond our solar system. Do we have any survivors? Asked the representative from the African Confederation. 23 escape pods were launched before Nova's destruction. We've confirmed signals from 18. Search and rescue operations are underway, but the attack location is at the very edge of our response range. President Kamari's voice cut through the murmurs that had broken out around the table. Options, Admiral. Wells hesitated only for a moment. Madam President, the charter of the United Earth Federation is clear. An attack on any human settlement constitutes an act of war against all humanity. I recommend immediate activation of the 7th Fleet and implementation of Defense Protocol Omega." A hush fell over the room. Defense Protocol Omega had been theorized but never implemented. The complete mobilization of Earth's military resources for offensive operations beyond the solar system. The representative from the European alliance leaned forward. "Admiral, we don't even know who attacked us. How can we respond?" The sensor data from Nova includes quantum resonance signatures from the attacking vessels. Wells replied. "It's enough for us to track them, and we will find them." President Kameri looked around the table, meeting the eyes of each representative in turn. 342 lives. An unarmed research station. If we do not respond, we send a message to every species in the galaxy that humanity will accept slaughter without consequence. She straightened to her full height. "I am invoking emergency powers under Section 7 of the Charter. Admiral Wells, you have operational authority. Find who did this. Show them. And anyone else watching, what happens when you awaken Earth's fury." The vote was unanimous. Within 6 hours, Earth's orbital shipyards had shifted to wartime production. The 7th Fleet, humanity's most advanced warships, moved into position for faster-than-light jumps to the Nova sector. And in a classified facility beneath the Mariana Trench, Admiral Wells activated a program that only 5 people in the UEF knew existed: Operation Thunderbolt. The Shadow Fleet, 30 stealth destroyers equipped with experimental technology, emerged from their hidden docks for the first time. These ships represented a contingency Earth had hoped never to need, vessels designed not for defense, but for hunter-killer operations in deep space. Admiral Wells stood on the bridge of the UEF Nemesis, the Shadow Fleet's flagship. Around him, the crew worked in focused silence, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. "Coordinates locked, Admiral," reported the navigation officer. "Quantum wake of the attacking vessels leads to the Cygnus Rift system." Wells nodded, his expression unreadable. "All vessels prepare for jump. Communications, send this message on all frequencies, standard and quantum. To those who attacked Nova Station, you believed we would respond with fear, with diplomatic protests, with retreat. You were mistaken. We are coming. Not to talk, not to negotiate, but to answer." He paused, then added, "Signature it, humanity." The Shadow Fleet vanished into the darkness of space, leaving no trace of their passage. Earth had been attacked, expecting silence in return. What they would deliver instead was retribution. The reckoning. Supreme Commander Vexthal stood before the holographic display in the war chamber of the Vrex Dominion's flagship, the Inevitable Conquest. His scaled skin gleamed under the harsh lighting as he studied the images of Nova Station's destruction with satisfaction. Behind him, his senior officers waited in respectful silence. "The human outpost has been eliminated as ordered," Supreme Commander reported Fleet Captain Drex. No significant resistance was encountered. Vexthal's mouthparts clicked in what passed for a smile among the Vrex. "Excellent. The humans build these fragile nests at the edges of their territory, thinking the galactic concord protects them." He gestured dismissively. "The Vrex Dominion recognizes no authority but its own. This demonstration will force the humans to withdraw from contested space." Supreme Commander, Ventured Science Director Kithra, her voice carefully modulated to show proper deference. "Our analysis of Nova Station's transmissions before its destruction indicates they managed to send a distress signal. The humans will know who attacked them." Vexthal turned to her, his 4 eyes narrowing. "And what will they do, Director?" "Their nearest military outpost is 3 light years from Nova. Their response fleet would take at least 14 cycles to mobilize and reach this sector. By then, we will have secured the Helios Gateway and established defensive positions. The humans are methodical, bureaucratic creatures. They will protest through diplomatic channels while we present them with a fait accompli." A junior communications officer entered the chamber and approached with the cautious movements of one bearing unwelcome news. "Supreme Commander, Our long-range sensors have detected unusual energy signatures in nearby space. Specify, Vexthal demanded. Unknown, Supreme Commander. They appeared briefly at the edge of our sensor range and then vanished. The pattern does not match known human vessels or any other cataloged species. Vexthal dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. Sensor ghosts. The Helios Nebula creates many anomalies. Return to your post. As the officer retreated, Vexthal addressed his war council. The next phase begins now. Prepare the invasion fleet for the Proxima colonies. We strike in 10 cycles. None of them noticed the small, almost imperceptible distortion in space just outside the flagship's defensive perimeter, the shadow of a predator watching its prey. Aboard the UEF Nemesis, Admiral Wells studied the holographic representation of the Vrex flagship. The Shadow Fleet's advanced stealth systems had allowed them to approach undetected, gathering critical intelligence. The Vrex Dominion, muttered Captain Haruka Tanaka, his second in command. I thought they were isolationists. Why attack now? The Helios Gateway, Wells replied, pointing to a spatial anomaly near the destroyed Nova Station. It's a naturally occurring wormhole that our scientists were studying. Stable enough for transit, but small enough to control. Whoever holds it controls the fastest route to the resource-rich Sagittarius arm. Dr. Elena Reyes stood with them, having been rescued from her escape pod and brought aboard the Nemesis due to her knowledge of the sector. The trauma of Nova's destruction was etched in the dark circles under her eyes, but her voice was steady. Nova Station wasn't a military threat, she said. We were studying the gateway's properties for scientific purposes. But your research might have eventually led to humanity controlling the gateway, Wells concluded. The Vrex decided to eliminate that possibility before it became reality. The tactical officer's voice cut through their conversation. Admiral, we've completed our scan of the Vrex fleet. 37 vessels total, heavily armed. Their flagship is twice the size of the Nemesis. Wells nodded, unsurprised. And our stealth systems are holding. Yes, sir. They have no idea we're here. What about the other ships that attacked Nova? Elena asked. Already identified. They're in the Vrex formation. Destroyer-class vessels. We have visual confirmation. Wells turned to the communications officer. Connect me with the Shadow Fleet. On the main view screen, the faces of the other 29 ship captains appeared, their expressions grim and determined. Ladies and gentlemen, Wells began, we now have positive identification of the force that destroyed Nova Station. The Vrex Dominion, a species known for territorial aggression, but until now content to remain within their established boundaries. That changes today. He gestured to the tactical display. They believe they have time. They believe we are slow to anger and slower to act. We are about to correct that misconception. Wells looked at each captain in turn. Combat Protocol Epsilon is now in effect. All vessels will target Vrex propulsion and weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy. Yet. We want prisoners. We want answers. And most importantly, we want them to know exactly who has come calling. The captains acknowledged their orders, their faces showing the cold determination of those about to deliver justice. Belina stepped forward. Admiral, the Vrex have a hierarchical society. If you can capture their supreme commander, the others will be more likely to stand down. Wells nodded. Noted, Doctor. All ships, prepare for synchronized decloaking. Attack pattern Thunderbolt. Execute on my mark. The bridge crew took their positions, the tension palpable as the countdown began. 3, 2, 1, mark. Aboard the inevitable Conquest, alarms suddenly blared to life. The tactical display erupted with new contacts. 30 human warships appearing simultaneously in perfect attack formation, already inside the Vrex defensive perimeter. Impossible. Vexthal hissed. Where did they come from? How did they get past our sensors? Before his officers could respond, the first volley struck. Precision-guided energy lances sliced through the propulsion systems of 12 Rex vessels in the first attack wave. The human ships moved with impossible speed and coordination, their targeting so precise it could only be deliberate. They were disabling, not destroying. "Return fire," Vex Thal ordered. "Launch all fighter squadrons." But the human vessels were already executing their second attack run. More Vrex ships lost power, weapons, or maneuverability. The flagship itself shuddered as targeted strikes disabled its main engines and weapon arrays. On the command view screen, a human face appeared. An older male with gray hair and eyes like cold steel. "Supreme Commander Vexthal," the human said, his voice calm but edged with unmistakable menace. "I am Admiral Jackson Wells of the United Earth Federation. You attacked our research outpost, Nova Station. You killed 342 civilians. Did you believe we would not respond?" Vexthal's inner eyelids flickered in shock. "How are you here? It's not possible. Your nearest fleet is days away." "You made a fundamental error in your calculations," Wells replied. "You studied our ships, our weapons, our official response protocols. What you fail to understand is our resolve." The view screen split to show the Vrex fleet. Over 2/3 of their vessels were now disabled, drifting helplessly in space. The human ships moved among them like wolves among wounded prey. "Your invasion fleet has been neutralized," Wells continued. "Your flagship is at our mercy. You have one opportunity to surrender. After that, we will show you the same consideration you showed the civilians of Nova Station." Vexthal's officers looked to him, panic evident in their postures. The Supreme Commander's mind raced, searching for options that no longer existed. "The Vrex Dominion does not surrender," he began, but Wells cut him off. "Then the Vrex Dominion ends today. You have 30 seconds to reconsider." As the seconds counted down, Science Director Kithra stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, we must preserve our species. Our homeworld will be defenseless if this fleet is destroyed." Vexthal saw the truth in her words, felt the weight of his entire civilization's future pressing down upon him. With 20 seconds remaining, he gave the order that no Vrex Supreme Commander had ever uttered in their 1,000-year history. "We surrender." The interrogation of the captured Vrex officers revealed a truth more disturbing than the attack itself. Dr. Elena Reyes stood in stunned silence as she reviewed the translated Vrex logs in the Nemesis's secure briefing room. "They weren't just attacking Nova Station to control the gateway," she told Admiral Wells, her voice tight with controlled fury. "They were capturing humans, test subjects." Wells's expression darkened. "Explain." Elena brought up the translated documents on the main display. "The Vrex have been studying humans for years, abducting isolated settlers and explorers from the edges of our territory. They'd been conducting experiments to understand our adaptive capabilities, our genetic diversity." She pointed to specific sections of the text. "They call it the Ascension Protocol. They believe human biology holds the key to improving their own species. Nova wasn't just a strategic target. It was a harvesting operation. They planned to take survivors for experimentation." "Were there any successful abductions during the attack?" Wells asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she brought up another document. "Yes, 2 escape pods were captured. 27 people, including 8 children. According to this, they were transported to a research facility on Vrex's third moon, Karvash." Wells was silent for a long moment, his jaw clenched so tightly a muscle twitched beneath the skin. When he finally spoke, his voice was like ice. "Ready a strike team. I want our best operators, full tactical loadout. Dr. Rice, you'll accompany the team as a scientific advisor. Find these people and bring them home." Within 4 hours, a stealth insertion vessel departed the Nemesis, carrying Elena and a team of 12 UEF Special Operations Commandos toward the Vrex homeworld. The captured science director, Kithra, had provided access codes and facility schematics in exchange for guarantees of her personal safety. The insertion was flawless. Under the cover of the Shadow Fleet's electronic warfare systems, the rescue team infiltrated the moon base without detection. Elena guided them through the labyrinthine research facility, following Kithra's directions to the containment area. What they found there would haunt Elena's dreams for years to come. The abducted humans were in stasis pods, connected to Vrex medical equipment that continuously drew blood and tissue samples. The children were kept separate, their pods modified for longer-term containment. "They're alive," Elena whispered, checking the vital signs on the nearest pod. "All of them. We can reverse the stasis process safely, but we'll need to do it carefully." The team worked methodically, disconnecting the humans from the Vrex equipment and preparing them for transport. As the last stasis pod was secured, the facility's alarms suddenly activated. "We've been compromised," the team leader announced. "Vrex security forces converging on our position. 5 minutes to extraction." Elena downloaded all the research data she could access as the commandos prepared defensive positions. The Vrex guards arrived in force, but the human operators were ready. Advanced energy weapons, technology the Vrex had never encountered, cut through their ranks. The firefight was intense but brief. The rescue team suffered 2 wounded but no fatalities as they fought their way back to the extraction point. The recovered humans, still unconscious, were secured aboard the insertion vessel as it lifted off from Karvosha's surface. As they escaped the moon's atmosphere, Elena looked back at the facility through the vessel's viewport. Beneath the harsh lights of the Vrex homeworld's rings, it looked almost benign, just another structure on a desolate moon. But she knew what happened there. What would have continued happening if they hadn't stopped it? "Send everything we found to Admiral Wells," she told the communications officer. "All of it." On the bridge of the Nemesis, Wells reviewed the data from Karvosh with growing rage. The Vrex experimentation went beyond simple scientific curiosity. It was a systematic program to exploit human biology for their own evolution, with no regard for the suffering it caused. He turned to Supreme Commander Vexthal, who had been brought to the Nemesis bridge under heavy guard. The Vrex leader's proud posture had diminished somewhat, but defiance still glittered in his 4 eyes. "You will regret this interference, human," Vexthal said. "The Dominion spans 12 star systems. This fleet is but a fraction of our strength." Wells activated a holographic display showing the Vrex homeworld and its orbital defenses. "We've been busy while you were enjoying our hospitality, Supreme Commander. A Shadow Fleet has mapped every Vrex military installation in your home system. We have targeting solutions for each one." He switched the display to show a massive object moving slowly through space toward the Vrex homeworld. A planetoid-sized automated mining platform, one of humanity's most impressive engineering achievements. That is the UEF Prometheus. It was in the Proxima system, mining asteroids to support our colonization efforts. We've temporarily repurposed it. Vexthal's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "What are you doing?" "The Prometheus carries enough explosive yield to crack your planet's crust," Wells said matter-of-factly. "Not enough to destroy your homeworld completely, but enough to render it uninhabitable for approximately 10,000 years. He stepped closer to the Vrex leader. "That is what we could do. What we have the capability, and some would argue, the justification to do, but that is not who we are." Wells handed Vexthal a data tablet. "These are our terms. The Vrex Dominion will immediately withdraw from all contested space. You will provide reparations for the families of those killed at Nova Station. You will surrender all research derived from human subjects and destroy all samples. And you will sign a binding treaty acknowledging Earth's authority over the Helios Gateway." Vexthal studied the terms, his alien features unreadable. "And if we refuse?" Wells didn't answer immediately. Instead, he activated the ship's communication system. "This is Admiral Wells to all Shadow Fleet vessels. Decloak." Throughout the Vrex home system, 30 human warships suddenly appeared in strategic positions, surrounding defense platforms, hovering over military bases, their weapons primed and targeted. "We came prepared for war, Supreme Commander," Wells said quietly. "We have the capability to end the Vrex as a spacefaring civilization today. Instead, we're offering you peace. I suggest you take it." Vexthal looked from the data tablet to the display showing human warships throughout his home system. In that moment, he understood the fatal miscalculation the Dominion had made. They had studied human technology, human tactics, human history, but they had failed to understand the human spirit. "I will convey these terms to the Dominion Council," he said finally. "See that you do," Wells replied. "You have 6 hours." 1 month later, Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of the newly constructed Hope Station, watching as construction drones completed work on the outer hull. The station occupied the same orbit as Nova had, but it was larger, more advanced, and protected by a state-of-the-art defense system integrated into its very structure. Admiral Wells joined her, his uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. "The first research teams arrive next week. The UEF Security Council has approved your appointment as station director." Elena looked surprised. "I'm a xenobiologist, not an administrator." "You're a survivor," Wells corrected her. "Someone who faced the darkness and didn't blink. That's exactly who we need out here." They watched in silence as a UEF patrol ship passed the station, one of many that now maintained a constant presence in the sector. The Vrex Dominion had accepted Earth's terms, withdrawing their forces and surrendering all human research subjects and data. "Do you think they've learned their lesson?" Elena asked. Wells considered the question. "The Vrex? Perhaps. But more importantly, the rest of the galaxy has learned something about humanity. We don't start conflicts, but we finish them. We extend friendship freely, but our retribution is swift when that friendship is betrayed." He turned to face her. "The gateway opens in both directions, Doctor. There are species out there we haven't met yet, civilizations with technologies we can barely imagine. Some will be friends. Others may see us as the Vrex did. An obstacle to be removed, a resource to be exploited. And we'll be ready for them," Elena finished. "Yes," Wells agreed. "Because of what happened here. Because now, they know what happens when you awaken Earth's fury." As the station's lights came online, illuminating the new human outpost against the darkness of space, Elena thought about the message this sent to the galaxy. The Vrex had destroyed Nova Station, expecting humanity to retreat, to abandon this distant frontier in fear. Instead, they had returned stronger, more determined, and with a clear message to any who might threaten Earth and its people in the future. "We will not be silenced. We will not be conquered. We will not be experimented upon. We will not be underestimated again." In the vastness of space, Hope Station shone like a beacon, not just of human resilience, but of a promise. The promise that wherever humanity went among the stars, they carried with them not just their hopes and dreams, but their indomitable will to survive and thrive, no matter what challenges the universe might present. The Vrex had learned this lesson at tremendous cost. Others would hear the story and take note, for in attacking a peaceful research station, they had awakened something they never expected, the sleeping giant of humanity's collective resolve. They had expected silence. What they got instead was a reckoning that echoed across the stars.